let's get this thing started. Mark, Klein, and Dan, are you two ready?
Ready to go.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's kick this thing off. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's webinar entitled, Is Your Business Properly Insured? I bring you greetings on behalf of HeadCo and the HeadCo partners, and I'm extremely excited that you're here with us spending your evening tonight as we jump into this subject. So we're going to jump into the topic of business insurance, that small little detail that can have impact on your business and leave you exposed in a major way. So with no further delay, we're going to jump right into things. But first, let me do a few housekeeping issues. Tonight's presentation is in webinar format, which means that you can see and hear the presenters that are here tonight, but you will not be able to see each other. However, this will be an interactive experience in that if you have a question, please put it in the chat forum. There's also a hand raise functionality, so you can raise your hand so that we can see that you indeed have a question, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. We will have a Q&A session at the end, at which time I'll be able to activate your audio and give you an opportunity to ask questions directly to our presenters. So with that being said, our only rules are that you enjoy yourself and take advantage of the opportunity to learn a little bit. So tonight, I'm going to introduce the facilitators that are here with us today. And I know the presenter quite well. Mark Klein McMichael enjoyed almost 2 decades of success as a senior sales manager in corporate America before venturing out into the entrepreneurial world and opening up her own insurance agency. Mark Klein McMichael is a licensed Connecticut State Farm agent with an office location in Bloomfield, Connecticut. She serves clients seeking home, auto, life, health, and business policies. And so one of the great things about State Farm as an agency is that you get a team approach to service. So for every State Farm business customer, your agent has a designated business consultant who's there to provide additional support, higher level support to service your needs. So presenting with her tonight is Dan Whelan, the business consultant that works with her to make sure that her customers are taken very well care of. So Mark Klein and Dan, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. We definitely are looking forward to having this discussion, the opportunity to talk to small business owners on the importance of insurance. So looking forward to it, Dan.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Mark Klein, for inviting me to be a part of this.
All right. Well, it's yours. They are here waiting and listening to you. So you go ahead and proceed, and I've got your back on the technical support side.
All right. I appreciate that. Well, first and foremost, welcome to tonight's workshop entitled, Is Your Business Properly Insured? My goal tonight is to walk you through and provide an understanding of the importance of having a portfolio of business insurance policies so that you are protected as you go about your normal daily routine of operating your business. As you can see here on the agenda, there are 3 major topics for tonight's discussion. First, I want to talk about why you need insurance. Secondly, I'll explain the different types of insurance that are available to you as a small business owner. And finally, I will share my thoughts on what's necessary from a coverage standpoint. If you need to reevaluate your insurance situation, please know I am a resource for you. If you like a private consultation to evaluate your personal business situation, we can schedule an in-person meeting, a phone call, or a Zoom meeting. I'm willing to meet you however you like. I'll make sure that my information is in the chat room so you can contact me if you like. In addition, Dan Whelan, our business consultant, will be joining me as well. Good to go. All right, insurance and why you need it. This is interesting. Often, I'm really surprised about how many business owners do not carry business insurance. From my professional perspective, there are a few policies that should be a prioritized line item in your annual budget. To put it bluntly, not having a business insurance policy places you at risk of losing everything that you've worked so hard to establish. As a small business owner, there's a good chance that you may be held legally responsible when things go wrong, whether intentionally or accidentally. If another person gets hurt or if their property is damaged while at your business, you can be held responsible for that as well. From a big picture perspective, business insurance gives you peace of mind. And with all the stresses, challenges, and concerns of trying to run and grow a business, the last thing you need to be is exposed. As you know, we're definitely living in a litigious society where the threat of a lawsuit, whether it's legitimate or frivolous in nature, is ever present. Having business insurance can protect you from the financial devastation that litigation can cause if you're not properly insured. Without insurance, any associated expenses resulting from damages or legal claims become an out-of-pocket expense for you. I'll make a disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, so I won't offer you any legal advice. So if you're currently facing any legal proceedings resulting from liability claims, my advice is actually, contact your attorney. However, as a licensed agent, I'll give you advice on what types of coverages that I recommend to help whatever process you may have in the future. I mentioned before that in general, insurance coverage gives you peace of mind, but specifically, it offers you comprehensive protection as it relates to yourself, your actions, your employees, your customers, and your assets. And as you know, oftentimes business insurance is required either by law or from certain companies and organizations in order to do business with.
Mark Lyon, if I may.
Absolutely, Dan.
I'd like to add to that I think it's a really important point. I don't know how many people out there are new business owners or established business owners, but I think that the takeaway is when you do begin your business, sometimes, you may or may not have the capital you're thinking, or, hey, we might not get off the ground too quickly, so I don't have, the ability to pay for that insurance. But it really is and really should be a huge, a consideration of your budget to start. And the reason that is so important is like Mark Lyon said, you could wind up in a situation where you have to pay out-of-pocket expense for a claim, whether the claim is, serious or minor. But it's really an important part of what you're doing out there to have business insurance when you start your business, or if it's not day one, at least in the early goings of your business. Because if you've saved and scrapped to start that business endeavor, if you have one claim incident and you have to take that money out of the bank essentially to pay for that, you may not have any more ability to keep your business going. And so it's one of those situations where it may be penny wise and dollar foolish. So you want to think about covering your business, even if upfront it might not be something that you're saying, well, do I have to have this? It is very important for you to have it, and it could definitely help your business.
Thanks, Dan. All set, Jimmy. So I've listed a few business policies that many small business owners should consider as part of their insurance portfolio, which we will elaborate more in the next few slides. Go ahead. So, okay. All right. So business liability. So business owner's policy. And this encompasses some of the coverages under that kind of general policy. So business liability will provide coverage if someone comes on site and gets hurt on your business premises. It includes coverage such as medical payments, products completed, and products liability. So simply, somebody slips and falls on your property. This is where the business liability would come into play here. Building coverage. So building coverage covers the cost of repairing damage to the structure of your property. For example, if you sustained a covered fire loss, it would actually pay to repair those damages. And then business personal property. It actually covers your business property while on premises. And I want to reiterate while on premises, because there's a difference between that and then the next policy, your inland marine, which a lot of, for example, folks don't realize that is a real necessity. So this This policy covers tools while in transport, mobile business operations, businesses that require you to take your equipment and tools with you, such as contractors, photographers, because this is not going to be on premises. Dan, I think you had some great examples of some things you've run into.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, just to recap some of everything that you went over here, Mark Line. So, no business policy. Obviously, you're going to be an individual business and customer. So different policies are going to fit what you need, right? Like, if you don't own a building, then building coverage is not going to be something you're going to worry about. You're going to be worried about business personal property. How do I cover my belongings at the location? Or, everybody's going to be worried about having business liability, whether you own the building or you're a tenant business. So when we have a business owner's policy, it is going to be somewhat tailored to you, keeping in mind that you may not need building coverage, or maybe you own the building and rent it out. And so you don't have any business personal property for that. So obviously it's a very case by case and unique thing, but you want to have all those coverages. To the point of inland marine, it's definitely that there's a big distinction between business personal property and your inland marine coverage. So like Mark Lyon said, your business personal property really covers your belongings at the location outlined in your declarations pages, where you say your business operates from. So to use an example, if you have a pizza parlor, you probably aren't going to have a use for inland marine, right? Like, you're not moving your pizza ovens and stuff off site. You're going to keep them at that location. And so your business personal property is going to be the key component. But now let's switch that and say, like Mark Lyon said, you're a contractor. Well, your place of business that you work really changes day to day. And so when you're doing that, you're going to you're going to be keyed into having your inland marine, because you want to cover those tools when you're at different locations all the time. You don't want them just covered at your home, because your job site could be in Hartford one day and New Haven the next. So that's the importance of inland marine. And then some other businesses that might use that coverage, like Mark Lyon said, would be a photographer. The same thing. Most photographers, they're working at different locations. They're at a wedding. Maybe they're at a family party, or maybe they're at an event. So their job site is always a different place. So they want to make sure that that equipment and those tools or anything that they have are covered off of their actual business location. Whereas, again, using that example, maybe a retail store or something else, you don't have that exposure because your business is actually at that location all the time. So.
Dan, just to kind of add one more example, I recently wrote a customer. She's a groomer, and with her previous insurance, she had the business liability. She said, "Hey, Mark Klein, this is all I need." But then after sitting down and doing some digging in and asking some questions, we realized that she at times will actually transport the animals. So sometimes she'll pick up somebody's dog and take them to her facility where she does the grooming. Well, she actually needed an inland marine policy for the transport of the animal, because if the animal escaped, she would be up the creek. So the inland marine would actually cover the animal escaping. So it's really important when you sit down with your insurance agent to really provide as many details as possible, because the worst thing is something like that occurs and you just had no idea. So that was very valuable to her, because she just really didn't know. And imagine, the animal escaping as she opens the door to get the animal out of the car. So very valuable policy.
Yep, and just to highlight that example again, like, that's exactly it. There could be an inland marine for a dog groomer or for a veterinarian to cover animals. So there's various types of inland marine situations where you may need something, and again, that's the only thing that's going to cover it. So and it's a very case by case thing, and that's why you have Mark Lyon here, and she's a great resource to be able to go to talk to about, hey, does my business need this coverage or that coverage, or what things would be important. So we're always going to try to. Sometimes I always laugh as a consultant. I ask a lot of questions. Mark Lyon knows this. I'm an underwriter / consultant, and kind of the reason that we do that is in order to look at your business and understand it. We have to know about it. And so by knowing about it, then we can try to serve those needs that you may have, because, we don't want to miss anything. We want to be able to help you in every way possible.
Thank you, Dan. All right, Jimmy, next. All right, so your professional liability policy, that helps cover you and your company if you make a mistake in your professional services. So there are various types of professional liability policies depending on your specific profession. This is very important. The main difference between your general liability, which is in that business owner's policy, and professional liability is in the type of risk they cover. So general liability will cover physical risks such as bodily injury, slip and fall, and property damage. Your professional liability covers more abstract risks such as errors and omissions in the services your business provides. So if you're a financial advisor, accountant, or dentist, you should consider having a professional liability policy. For an example, I'm an insurance agent. If for some reason somebody calls me and said, hey, Mark Klein, I need you to add this this endorsement on for coverage. And I say, okay, sure. And I didn't do it. And that person has a loss due to that endorsement that I did not cover, that I forgot, error, or I omitted. This is where this policy would assist. I call it the oops policy. So very, very important, depending on your specific profession, that you have this type of policy in place, because can you imagine how devastating that can be to your business?
I would also add to that, Mark Lyons, so just to draw a distinction, professional liability is separate from what we just went over, your business owner's policy. So, and not every business requires professional liability. So you want to keep that in mind. It's usually geared towards specific business types, or obviously business types that may have a need. Like if you have a deli and you're making a sandwich, but you forget the cheese, like that's not really an errors and omissions claim. So it's really about, particular business types and when these type of professional coverages are required. So like you have errors and omissions, you have, which is very similar to errors and omissions, but it's geared towards a specific business type, which is if you look on the list, accountant's professional liability. And I will circle back to that EPLI in a second. So I wasn't skipping that. I think this correlates well to errors and omissions. Accountant's professional liability would be for a similar thing that Mark Lyons said, where maybe your accountant, he's doing your taxes and there's a problem, and now you're suffering an audit and there's just a huge error on your tax returns and your bookkeeping. And that was your accountant that did that. Well, now if you sued your accountant, that accountant would want to make sure they had accountant's professional liability to cover them for that actual specific work that they were doing in regards to that, that profession. So, and then similar to that is dentist professional liability that we offer. So if you're a dentist and let's say someone comes to you and, you make your diagnosis that they have a cavity and that tooth needs to come out, but by some strange thing, maybe you misread the x-ray and you pull the wrong tooth. And now that customer sues you, obviously, you extracted the wrong tooth. Well, dentist professional liability covers you for that versus your general liability policy. That would not, because that's really to cover your business location and just that general liability, not specific to that trade. So that's why some businesses don't need professional liability, because it's kind of encompassed, what you're doing is nothing really, I don't want to say not high risk, but it's not out of the ordinary of being covered under that general liability, whereas some more specific things require deeper coverage. And the last thing I'd like to mention there is that that EPLI, employment practices liability insurance. So I think that's a really important coverage and often overlooked, I find, by business owners. So if you have, if you're starting up and maybe it's just a family business, you may not have an initial need for EPLI, but if your business continues to expand and you're hiring on employees, the reason that's important is EPLI protects you, the business owner, in a situation where, let's say you had to fire someone and you fired them, and they were upset. They thought it was that you didn't like them because of how they wore their shirt, or it's sexual harassment. Anything, it could all be untrue, but because they feel that they were targeted, they want to sue you for firing them. So you, as the business owner, you'd want to be protected against that. And that's what employment practices liability insurance does. It protects you for wrongful termination, sexual harassment. And so, founded or unfounded, having that coverage is going to save you, because if you have to fight that on your own, just for lawyers' fees, it may cost you $5, $10, $15,000 to settle a bogus claim. And going back to the same thing of why do you need insurance? You want to budget to have certain coverages and certain things that you may need, because if you took 10 years to prepare yourself to open this business, and you scrimped and saved in the sense that you're ready to do this, and you have your budget, this is your dream. And now if you're not covered properly, you may have to pay that out of pocket. And now your dream is set back again. And so it really is important to think about things that you may need for insurance that sometimes, you may not have that ability at the moment, but it's as your business grows and changes, or you may not have that need at this moment. Like I said, you could be, strictly owner operated with no employees. So you may not need EPLI today, but as your business grows and changes, you want to reach out to your insurance professional, like Mark Lyon in this situation. If she's your agent, she's going to guide you and talk to you and be able to help you on the products and needs you have. So.
Thanks, Dan. All right. Next. All right, so this is pretty simple. As you know, many of us have auto and home, and we have an umbrella policy. So this is the same type of policy, except it's for commercial. So essentially, it will provide that extra layer of liability past your current limits of liability. So for example, if your company is found liable, somebody slipped and fell at your place of business, and you're sued for $1.5 million. However, you have $1 million worth of liability. Well, now what are you going to do about that $500,000? So this is where that umbrella policy would cover the shortfall. So it just makes up the difference of whatever your underlying policy limits do not cover. And as you know, lawsuits get very expensive. So it's just important, it's really, really important that you have enough insurance. All right, all set.
So business auto, I'll touch on this one for everyone. So there's a few different categories that you want to consider. So how we rate vehicles, we have two categories. So we have business and commercial rated, but basically either of those instances would be a situation where it would fall into there, where you're using your vehicle for 50% or more of the time for work. So if you occasionally use your vehicle, then no, that wouldn't classify as a business or commercial rated. But I have to believe that most business owners, as they grow again, and maybe their endeavor goes from part-time to full-time, they're using that vehicle all the time. So that's going to be a big consideration. Why is that important? Because if it's your business and it's under your business name, you want to make sure that you have that rated for a business or commercial exposure. And some of the factors in there that are important, how we look at that beyond just usage is, what's the vehicle type? What's the gross vehicle weight? Has the vehicle been modified, and what are you specifically using it for? So all those different traits and characteristics are built into how we distinguish, is this, is it a personal use? Are you using it more than 50% of the time? And if it's not personal use, when it becomes business or commercial rated, that's how it's broken down. And then you have another another coverage there that's very important, is called employee non-owned car liability, ENOL. And this is really important if you are a business owner and let's say you send your employees out to do work for you. So the easy example that I would say would be like a pizzeria. A lot of pizzerias hire on delivery people to do local pizza deliveries, right? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, they might have, a bunch of drivers going out delivering orders. But each of those drivers is using their own personal vehicle. But if they put that little sign on the top of their car and they're driving around town and they get in an accident, so maybe somebody's looking at their phone and now they hit into a car. Well, if the name on the top of the car is, John's Pizza, and now whoever got in the accident sees that on that car that hit them, says, wow, well, I'm going to sue the driver and I'm also going to sue John's Pizza, excuse me. So if John's Pizza doesn't have this E&OL, essentially when they get sued, they may not have coverage under their business policy. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have employee non-owned liability. If you have employees using their own vehicle regularly in the course of business for you, now you can look at this many different ways. Like, well, if I send somebody out once in a blue moon to do something, probably not an issue. But if on something like a pizzeria where it can be established that this is a regular thing, your insurance companies are going to look at that. And if you don't have that coverage, when something happens, you could be paying that out of pocket. So you always want to make sure, when you're sitting down to really analyze your business, hey, do I send my employees out? Is this a risk for me? And, if so, I really should get this coverage in place.
Thank you, Dan. All right, next important policy in your portfolio, if you have employees, is that workers' comp. So what I'd say is it's really important to know that workers' comp does not cover business owners, volunteers, or independent contractors. So that's an important distinction. Regardless of the state you're in, employers have to pay for workers' comp insurance. So you must have that. Your cost, this is another important piece, your cost for workers' comp is a percentage of your payroll. So for example, it's going to be important that you communicate and send that information to your insurance company so they can properly rate you for what your workers' comp premium should be. So, businesses change from year to year. So if you do have a workers' comp, make sure that you are keeping your insurance company up to date with what that payroll looks like, especially with COVID. For some business owners that has changed and that can impact your premium. So make sure that you're in contact with your insurance agent to update that information.
Yeah, I would add to that, Mark Line, more than other business policies, it's almost one that's not static, right? Like your business, maybe this year you add employees, so your payroll goes up. So, you're going to want to work with your agent to review that. So that's something that you'd want to let Mark Lyon know. So you adjust that. Conversely, maybe you have a year where you let some people go. And so your payroll went down. And so the same thing. So your workers' comp is kind of a policy, unless you're able to maintain your workforce always at the same, same number of employees, same payroll, which is great if you can. But, we all know that, things happen in life. People move on, people get promotions, whatever it is, it could be good or bad, but your workers' comp, your payroll may fluctuate. And the other important thing too is, and this is not something that we get involved in per se, but if you don't have workers' comp insurance and the state finds that out, you could face heavy penalties. Now, that's not something, that's why I said we don't get involved in that. We don't report to the state and say, hey, this person doesn't have a workers' comp policy. That's not what we do. But you want to be mindful of not having it, because the state will eventually look and say, hey, they're operating without insurance, and you could wind up facing penalties for that. And so the bottom line is, again, it's one of those things where if you have workers and you need the coverage, I would get it in place, because those fines can be very heavy. And sometimes one fine could be more than what it might have cost you just to have a workers' comp policy. So really important to keep that in mind, again, particularly if you're a newer business owner and maybe you just didn't know. If you're more experienced, then you may be well versed in workers' comp or what you need to do, but something to keep in mind in the beginning.
Thanks, Dan. All right. Key employee insurance. I'm going to ask this, maybe a show of hands, Jim, if you can chat. Are there any folks on here that have a business partner? And I can't see. So Jimmy, just let me
We've
know.
got one raised hand so far.
Okay. Okay. So let me tell you how important this is. Key employee insurance is a necessary, I would say, very necessary policy. If, for example, you have a business partner, and or you have somebody that is key to your business running. If that person's death, for example, would be, if that person died, essentially, that could be devastating to the future of the company. So what this policy does essentially is the company pays the insurance premiums, and the company is the policy's beneficiary should that person die. The reason being is that money can be used to help a business replace lost revenue as they search for a replacement. So again, if you have a business partner and unfortunately something happens to that person, can you imagine that can ruin your business until you kind of try to figure out, how do I replace this person? Well, this policy essentially will help you cover the cost of that person passing on. So it's called key employee insurance. And I would say for anybody that has a business partner, this is something you should really take a look at. I'll give you an example. We had somebody that we were using to do a tree service, and called them, all set, didn't hear from the guy for a little while, and called him back. And he said, oh, his business partner, the one who actually kind of climbs and does the tree cutting, was in the hospital. He was sick. He actually got COVID. I said, okay, so, we'll wait. Didn't hear from the guy again. So I finally called him back. And unfortunately, the gentleman never came out of the hospital. So for the tree service, he was completely, obviously his partner passed, which was awful in itself, but his business now was in a situation where his key partner employee, who actually did a lot of the labor, was no longer available. And so he was kind of dead in the water for quite some time until he was, figuring out how do I get past this. So, I would implore you to really look at this as, a policy that you may need if you're in that situation. All right, next. So lastly, as small business owners, I think it's really important just to touch on employee retention. A major struggle, as you know, for small businesses competing with the big guys when it comes to employee benefits. However, small businesses can offer, for example, benefits such as short-term disability and life insurance policies to employees to help with retention as part of a competitive benefit package. So I just want to bring that up because, again, I'm a small business owner, and you know what it's like to compete with the big guys out there, but rest assured there are great benefits that are very cost effective that you can offer to your employees that make it, it's affordable and that you can remain competitive with the other, the other larger companies. So just wanted to touch on that as well, because I think that's important. Now, I've had a chance to do a lot of talking, Dan and myself. So I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to have your questions answered. At this point, if you have a question, please, hit the raise your hand button and we'll enable your audio so that you can ask questions.
All right, so this is that moment. If you have any questions, we've got two insurance experts here ready to answer any questions that you might have. So please feel free to raise your hand. Let us know what you need to know, what you want to know, and we will make sure your questions get answered. We've got one here. And so we've got a question. What type of insurance should I have with a website design development company? And so that is Parmenas. That's his question. What type of insurance should I have with a website design development company?
So that I would say is very specific. That is one that I need to talk to offline, because with technology, there are very kind of specific items that we look at. And so it all depends on who you're doing the website design and technology for.
Yeah, I would add on to that, Mark Lyon, like you just quick generalization, you may need a business policy for that. And it sounds like you may need some professional liability, maybe like a technology errors and omissions as a potential professional liability coverage. So I would agree, like something like that, you're definitely going to want to talk to Mark Lyon and let her know a little bit more about what services you specifically provide, so then she could try to look at those policies for you. But as a, just an initial thought process to what you're doing, a business policy and a technology errors and omissions policy could be a potential there. And if you have employees, workers' comp may be another consideration. So.
All right, looks like we have a question from Willie Jones. And I am going to, what I'll do is I will enable his audio and let him ask his question. So Willie, you are live, my friend. Go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, this is Willie from YJ Cleaning and Maintenance. I just want to ask, because is it more cost effective? Because I got most of these insurances that you mentioned, not all of them, but I got umbrella, business, liability, and workman's comp and all that. Is it more cost effective to have it from the same carrier, or as I got it from different, like my workman's comp is from one, and then the liability and the umbrellas from another? Is that, I mean, I'm trying to see what's more cost effective.
So Willie, Dan, I'll take that. So Willie, that's a great question. So what I'll say to you is this: as much as you can, I would say you want to streamline any of your business policies with one carrier, because at the end of the day, you really want your agent or the person handling this to know your business. Now, from a cost perspective, it could be more cost beneficial, because there could be a situation where some of the coverages overlap, and you may not need something that you have in a different policy. But if you're just kind of buying policies from different insurance companies, they're not going to know that. So it's really important, I would say, cost perspective and just efficiency, to really have as many of those policies all in one place.
Yes, that answers it. I mean, I'll virtually go through an agent, and even my auto, I got like trucks too under YJ Cleaning, but they all from I let an agent do it, but they all from different carriers. Like my trucks are on one place, my business on this. So I was just trying to figure out the most cost effective, because I got a lot of insurance, a lot of places.
Yeah, I would say as much as you can bundle from a cost perspective, but also from a service perspective too. I mean, at the end of the day, you really want your agent or your insurance company, whoever that may be, to know who you are and what your needs are.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did that answer your question?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right, we're going to go and I'm going to activate Colleen's audio and allow her to ask her question. So Colleen, are you there? Colleen, we'll have you, if you would unmute yourself. Okay. Well, Colleen put a question in the chat group. So Colleen, if you want to ask it verbally, please unmute, but I will ask, you put a couple questions in there. So the first thing was, I will be launching an online business selling home decor products. Do you do product?
I'm there we go. Now.
All right, Colleen, how are you?
Sorry. Yeah, I'll be launching an online business selling home decor products, and I wanted to get a little more information about product liability insurance. I wasn't sure if that was really covered under the business, one of your categories.
You want me to field that one, Mark Line?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so what I would ask you is, are you manufacturing the products? Are you
No, no, I'm not. I will be sourcing the product from other production vendors overseas.
Okay, so interesting question. So products completed is definitely something that's a big thing that you're going to want to look at. For us, as far as overseas, we don't really do much of that, only because of there's various liabilities that go along when you're importing, exporting, things like that. So different carriers will kind of focus on different markets. So what I would say is products completed, definitely going to be something that you're going to want to look at, because obviously when that product comes in, you are essentially now the first and last line of defense if you're directly importing that. So you want to make sure that you have products completed in your policy. Now, in a lot of ours, that coverage is part of the general liability, and a lot of carriers, I can't speak for all of them, they will include products completed as part of the general liability. But then through the underwriting process, they're going to look at, do you import these products direct? Do you manufacture them? Do you label them? Or do you just sell them? And do you get them from US domiciled suppliers versus, international suppliers? So you are definitely going to want to make sure that you have that coverage in there. And again, that's really what it's designed for. It's designed for what you're selling and the product that you're completing, which in this case, you're distributing it or selling it. And so if you're taking that imported, then you're going to have a big chunk of that liability as you sell it.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it did. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so we're going to go on. We have a question from Rosina, and we will allow her to ask her question. So I've just enabled her audio.
Hello, yes. I'm wondering if I am creating an LLC for a business that caters to preschool children, and it's out of my garage and garden. Do I need a business liability insurance for this and nothing else?
So, oh, go ahead, Dan.
No, please go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I just wanted a little bit more information. So when you're saying creating, is it a daycare? What are you doing?
It's not a daycare. It's basically, let's put it this way, an immersive Spanish playgroup. So basically under 5 children, 6 children, and under 3 hours. So it's not considered a daycare, a child care center, or anything like that.
And it's conducted from your house?
From my detached garage, yes.
Detached garage?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a really good example here. So one, you're definitely going to you're going to need a business policy. So,
okay.
And the reason you're going to need that is you're operating it from your house. So you want to protect your house. Now, do you own your house? And it's going to,
yes.
When I ask this question, it's only to help you. Do you own your house or rent your house?
Own.
Okay, so perfect. And do you have an LLC for this business?
I will be creating one. This is at the moment I'm brainstorming the whole thing and figuring things out. So
good. That's perfect. That's great. And what I would say, to Mark Lyon's point in the beginning, I'll put this on here too. I'm not a lawyer, so you always want to talk to them about how you want to set and create your entities. But I will say, from an insurance standpoint, if your house is under your name and then your business is under an LLC, you definitely want to have insurance for that LLC, because you're protecting yourself personally. That means you'll have a line of liability for your business, and then your homeowner's policy will have its liability for what, for anything, like, for example, if somebody comes to the house for the business and they trip and fall, you want your business insurance to cover that. If you don't have business insurance and that happens and they sue you personally, your insurance carrier, whoever that may be, may deny coverage, because they'll turn around and say, well, you're operating a business from your house, and we're only covering your liability at your house for non-business related items. So if you had a family party and somebody got hurt, yeah, that's covered. Or if somebody came to your house because you were, maybe you're going to have blinds done on your house, and the salesperson comes and they trip, and whatever it is, I mean, that would be covered because it's part of what's going on, or in your personal life. But now you're running a business there, so you want to make sure you protect that business by having liability for it. So you want a business owner's policy, potential workers' comp if you have employees in this business.
No.
And the third component, I'll kind of throw a curveball here, and this is really important. You said a detached structure. So
Yes.
a lot of insurance carriers, what they will do, and this is like industry wide, if you have a detached building on your property, they would want that covered under a business policy if you are operating a business from it. So just to give you a little example here, if that garage was attached to your house, wouldn't make a difference. Your homeowner's policy would still cover that garage if something happened. But once it's detached, if you happen to have a loss, and let's say, your garage was damaged in a fire and you didn't have business insurance to cover that building, your homeowner's policy may say, hey, you're operating a business from there, we're not covering that building. So, and this is really, I'm sorry, what was your first name again?
Rosina.
Rosita, this is like such a great example of why when you talk to your insurance professional, and I hope that many of you go to Mark Lyon, this is why this is an important question, because when we can uncover these details, we try to help you. Like we're looking to make sure that you have all the coverage that you need. If you're not running a business from that garage, it would just be covered under your homeowner's policy like a garage. But once you now are running a business out of it, now that building may need to be covered separately. So in where we are now, you may need to have a business policy just to cover that building as well, in addition to your regular business policy.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. I'll circle back. I know the first question by Parmenas was done in the chat, and before we enabled audio. So I don't know if he wanted to ask an additional question via audio. So what I'll do is I will activate his audio, and he looks like he just raised his hand again. So we'll allow him the opportunity to potentially follow up on his questions that he had earlier. So Parmenas, you are allowed to speak, my friend, and the floor is yours.
So good evening, and let me, I hope you all can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So let me start by thanking you just for this presentation, because while I'm pretty astute in technology affairs, I don't understand as much about insurance. So it's good to be able to speak with professionals. I wanted to follow up on one of the first answers that you had regarding technology errors and omissions. And you also asked for what type of, I guess, what my clients, who I'm doing the websites for. And I guess I need more understanding or clarity on how that matters when it comes to insurance, because my clientele are both nonprofit and for-profit organizations. So if you could elaborate on, my clients and how that, how that correlates, and also, and this is why I'm glad presentations like this are available, because I had always thought that professional liability insurance only went for professions that require professional licenses, like dentists and accountants, et cetera. So I did not know that technology was included in that. So those are my two areas of concern: how my clients correlate to the type of insurance that I have, and does professional liability carry over to the technology industry?
Would you like me to field that one, Mark Lyon?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So, well, thank you again. Those are great questions. So, I'll try to answer the first one here as detailed as I can. So the reason that they want to know who your clients, and this is just, again, I would say this is broadly with any insurance carrier. They want to know necessarily who your customers and clientele are, because depending on the coverage, every carrier, it's odd to say, but they kind of play in different markets. Some carriers may charge a much higher premium, but they play in more risky markets. So they may be built to rate for larger exposures. So, let's say some of your clients are, one instance you could be for the military, or one instance you could be for a large industrial sort of clientele. Well, like I can only speak for us, but our rates aren't always geared towards those types of businesses. So, depending on what you are doing and who some of your customers are is going to help determine whether, A, you're eligible for this company, and B, do they have the right policy and coverages for you based on the size and scope of what you're doing. And then that extends to your customers depending on what the business is, right? I mean, like I said, I used the food example before for pizzeria and deli. We're not always interested in who your customer base is there, because you're pretty much, you're delivering the same sort of food product. So it doesn't matter if you're selling 10 of them or selling 100 of them. But if you're doing something for websites, and you may have, done something on a website that maybe led to a huge dilemma for that manufacturing company, well, that can have much larger implications. And so, it's essentially, it's not necessarily there's a bad risk or bad exposure. It's that different carriers, different insurance companies, they may play in different areas because they can design those policies to account for those risks. So that's kind of the first layer of your question. And then the second layer that you wanted to know was about professional liability. I think it's just kind of evolved over the years of what types of businesses need professional coverages and what types of businesses don't. Like, obviously the traditional ones are like you said, a doctor, a dentist, maybe a lawyer, an accountant. Those are kind of all the traditional ones. But as things have expanded, I mean, even now, like some of the technology services and things, 20, 25 years ago didn't exist in the same way they did now. And there's more businesses and more liability exposure there. So that's where we've kind of evolved. There's different professional liability coverages for different things, and they can be more broadly applicable to a wider array of businesses. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Yes, it does.
You're very welcome.
All right, I don't see any more hands raised. Are there any more questions? Anyone that has a question they'd like to get in? Any other questions? As they say, going once, going twice, 3 times. Doesn't seem like we have any more questions from anyone here. I guess we'll just say thank you for the questions that you've presented. Thank you for the opportunity to be with us tonight. Thank you, Mark Lyon. Thank you, Dan. We're glad that we could service our customers and our clients in the general small business community. Looks like we might have one more. Hold on one second. Oh, just a thank you to all of you. So thanks for allowing us to continue servicing the small business community. And are there any final comments that you two would like to make?
Yeah, no, head coach, thank you. And for everybody that's, come in and participate, I want to thank you. I know you're very busy and there's a lot of things that, you need to be doing during this time. You have family, but I just want to reiterate, if there's anything specific, pick up the phone, give me a ring. We'll talk through it. The great thing is, as Jimmy mentioned, we actually have specialists with Dan here that, can really helps out with the nitty gritty, specifically geared towards your business. So the more information we have, it's going to really help you be prepared and be protected for your business in the long term. So again, I really appreciate your time. And you guys have a great night. And I wish you all the best in your business endeavors.
Thanks.
Any comment?
Yeah, thank you. Just thank you, Mark Lyon. Thank you, Jimmy, for having me be a part of this, and thank you to everybody out there. I hope we delivered just the information that you can find useful and helpful in your business. And thank you for the great questions and participation. And good luck in whatever part of your business you're at. The beginning, the journey, the fun. Wherever you are in that business cycle. It's an awesome experience, and I get to work with a lot of agents and talk to a lot of different business owners, and so it's always an exciting and great thing. So thanks again.
All right. So Mark Lyon's information is on the screen. If you need it, grab it, reach out to her. So if you've enjoyed yourself tonight, if you've been a part of our series of webinars that we do on a regular basis, the next one comes up next Wednesday at 10 a.m. So if you'd like, you can visit hedcoinc.com, hedcoinc.com, and register free webinar. It's called Thriving in a Pandemic, Profiles of Success. So during these difficult times of COVID-19, we have clearly been impacted from a small business world perspective. But however, despite how difficult it's been on so many, there are some businesses that have managed to thrive in this current situation. And so we're going to draw from them, get some of their tips, their best practices, to understand what they've had to do, what shifts they've had to make, how they've had to restructure and do things differently to find success during this pandemic. So visit us at hedcoinc.com, register for that webinar next Wednesday during Connecticut Business Week, 10 a.m. So thank you for being here, and good night, everyone, and have a great week. Take care.